we're going to talk about the New England Patriots. The next sleeper that I like was the guy I put in there was Hunter Henry. This is a guy that I think is, if you're somebody like, say, an Anthony Servino, who I always say on this show, and Anthony takes great pride in it, if you're someone who waits on the tight end position, Hunter Henry could be a name that could produce for you, that could put up some nice fantasy numbers. He finished as the tight end 18 last year. That was in 14 games played. He is a tight end 18 now going into the year too, as far as his ADP. He tied with 5 other tight ends last year for second with 6 receiving touchdowns. Among those tight ends, though, Hunter Henry had the fewest receptions with 42. Just a few receptions ahead of him was Mark Andrews, and we know how much time he missed during the year. So really the big concern here is Hunter Henry has to get the receptions up. I mean, 6 touchdowns, if you're talking about recreating 6 touchdowns, I don't think that is impossible, especially given the fact that while we talked about quarterback positions have come up a bit on this show and the effect that they have in the passing game, I have to imagine, and yes, I know there's a world where I could be wrong, but it can't get much worse than Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi last year. Again, I'll always say Mac Jones is he's probably better than what we saw in New England, but whatever. We saw what we saw there. It was a crime scene out there on a weekly basis. So, Hunter Henry will likely be working with Drake May. I feel more so like he's going to be the one who's going to start the majority of the season. I think they're just going to be calling for it right away. And what do we always say? A young quarterback's best friend is the tight end. And Hunter Henry is now a veteran here. I like him. I think he could produce. Now, is he probably better suited to be like a streaming option as opposed to, from wire to wire, you're starting him every single week? Maybe that's something to keep an eye on. But I like Hunter Henry this year. Again, if you're waiting on a position, I don't hate Hunter Henry. Anthony, what says you? I know we're going from one gross offense to another, so bear with me. But what would you say about Hunter Henry?
I like Hunter Henry. Whether it's Jacoby Brissett or Drake May, I expect the quarterback play overall to be better. And this is another guy in Hunter Henry who suffered from poor catchable target rate. He was 27th amongst tight ends in catchable target rate. That's really bad, especially at the tight end position. Only 75.8% of his targets were catchable, so 47 of 62. There wasn't a lot of good here, but the one thing that jumps out to me that Hunter Henry played in 14 games. In 5 of those weeks, he finished as a tight end 1 that week. He finished as a tight end 1, tight end 2, a tight end 4 twice, and a tight end 9. So when he pops, he pops. It's just a matter of, are we going to get more popping out of Hunter Henry? I like Brissett. I like Drake May. I think they're both going to be upgrades. I think look at this wide receiver room. Hunter Henry might lead this team in targets. I don't think that's crazy to say in a league where tight ends are ultra valuable and they're ultra involved in a passing attack. If you look at this wide receiver room full of rookies and bust first round picks and Juju Smith-Schuster and KJ Osborne, is it crazy to say that this guy can be number 1 or number 2 on his own team in targets? And there's a history here. Usually if a tight end is number 1 or number 2 on his team in targets, they're ultra productive in fantasy. So this is a pretty nice sleeper pick at the tight end position that I don't mind taking. And by the way, they signed him to a 3-year extension. They're happy with him in New England. They like what he's shown them since he's been here. They would not have awarded him an extension with a new regime if it wasn't for that.
Just to piggyback off of what you were saying before I kick it to Pete, talking about the targets. I mean, last year he had an 11% target share, which was, granted, you had 15% for Demario Douglas. Then it was 10% for both Kendrick Bourne and Devontae Parker. So ahead by 8%, but still, he was, there you go. So the target share has already been there. The offense maybe can be better with a new quarterback here or 2 different quarterbacks. Pete, What says you? Are you with us here on Hunter Henry, or are you on the outside looking in?
I am. I like Hunter Henry. Crazy as it is to say, quarterback upgrade, right? That's the first thing I'll say. Whether if it's Jacoby Brissett, which we all assume is going to at least start the season as the QB1, that's a quarterback upgrade from what he had last year. Hunter Henry had a top 12 finish 5 times last season. He had 4 finishes in the top 5. He was third on the team for targets and catches, and he led the team in touchdowns. Right, and I apologize. I don't know if I might be doubling up on some of those stats and talking points from you guys, but
better not be.
But this is a weak wide receiver room, which we already talked about. I actually had somebody say to me, and there's some nerds out there who want to say that the tight end narrative being a rookie quarterback's best friend is false, and it's not true. I don't know. As a guy who played football, and I love football, right? And I don't claim to know more than the average person, but I would say a tight end is a safety blanket. If Drake May starts more games than we expect, I easily could see Hunter Henry doing what he did last year. And all he needs to do is do what he did last year. I mean, this is Hunter Henry's probably not going to be your number 1 tight end, right? You're probably going to have somebody else, unless you're going with Hunter Henry and maybe another guy in the back end out there, but you're probably not in a good spot either way. You're probably streaming, right? But I mean, this guy, like I said, gave you 4 top 5 finishes last year. He finished in the top 12 5 times. I mean, this is a guy who has a high floor. We know he's going to score touchdowns. And that's just what he does. And he is going to be the safety blanket. Jacoby Brissett likes to throw the football to the tight end. When he was in Cleveland, he did get the ball to David Njoku. Now, he didn't do it like Joe Flacco did, but he does like the tight end position as well. And so I think Hunter Henry is a nice value that I keep getting sniped on anytime I do a best ball draft. I don't have many shares of him, but every time I'm looking to hit that button, he seems to go right in front of me. So,
and by the way, we do have our own Steve D'Angelo in the chat calling out Cupid